If you're Gen Z or you know someone who's Gen Z, you probably are aware that most people, I'm not going to categorize and say every single one, but most Gen Z people, workers, employees don't really want to work. And I think that's a common theme. I think that's not an exaggeration. It might be a little bit of a simplification. And, I don't want to oversimplify things, but I do think that for the most part, yeah, it's kind of an ongoing trend right now, and I kind of want to dissect a couple of the reasons why I think this is the case. First up, I think that there's burnout. I think a lot of Gen Z workers have experienced some kind of burnout in some way or fashion. Maybe their parents have experienced burnout and they see the mental drain that going into a 9 to 5 every single day has on an employee. And, maybe they realize that, hey, my dad was not around when I grew up. My mom couldn't pick me up after school sometimes. And I don't want to have my kid experience what I had to experience. And so I think a lot of people maybe want to find a way out of this. And that's kind of why you see a lot of this freelance / fire movement stuff where people are trying to do their own thing, right? They're not trying to be tied down to a 9 to 5 because they want financial freedom. At the same time, they want personal, just life freedom. And that's going to be one of the things I'm going to talk about in the next tip here. Or not tip, but next, whatever you want to call it, point. Remote work. I think a lot of these Gen Z employees prefer remote work. I think a lot of, millennials do as well. But the older generation, people didn't mind. People don't care about going in 9 to 5. If you're in an office right now, you probably notice a lot of the old timers, the old school people who are in your office space, they don't care. They're in the office every day. They're in there for 10, 12 hours a day because they don't care about being at home. They like the office. They like feeling a sense of accomplishment at work. And, a lot of Gen Z, millennials, younger folk, they don't really care about that. They don't care about the company. There's no such thing as company loyalty compared to our parents' generation. Yeah, your parents probably thought hey, you're lucky to get a job. This job is providing for my entire family. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to do the best I absolutely can. And I don't think that you shouldn't, depending, doesn't matter what age you are. I think that you should be doing the best you can. I don't really subscribe to the idea of quiet quitting, as I talked about in a previous video. That video actually did pretty well, so go check that out if you haven't already. But something like work-life balance is very, very big. Many people prefer hybrid, if not completely remote work, depending on the field, obviously. They don't want work to be their entire life. They want to be able to pick up their kid after school, and they want to be able to play with their family on the weekends. Nobody wants to be working 24/7 and feel like they're obligated to stay late after work and stuff like that. I was in a toxic work environment, not my most recent one, but one of my earlier jobs where, if I tried to leave at 4:30, not even my boss, but just coworkers would just start calling me out oh, you're taking off already? And, it's a joke kind of, but it got to the point where I was like, dude, can you not clock watch me? I don't feel safe here. What do you want me to do? Just sit here for another 30, 45 minutes doing nothing? My work is done for the day. Do you need help? Are you just jealous because I can go home and you can't? You're probably getting paid way more than me. Keep in mind, I was probably entry level at this point. I don't know. I just didn't like that. And I think a lot of people feel maybe that kind of not entitlement, but maybe they feel a little bit of an obligation of oh man, I have to stay because my coworker's staying, because my boss is staying. And people don't want that. People in the Gen Z culture want to prioritize their mental health and obviously their work-life balance. And you can't really do that, if you're at a 9 to 5. Another reason why I think Gen Z, workers just don't want to work in general is because entry-level jobs, as well as gig economy jobs, think Uber, DoorDash, things like that, they don't really pay the best. Who wants to go into an entry-level job where you're making, slightly over minimum wage, and you're slaving away for 40, maybe 45, 50 hours a week, and you're getting paid peanuts. Who wants to do that? And especially when your friend down the street just started a TikTok or an Instagram and they're making triple what you're making, right? And they don't even have to leave the house. It's an easy comparison when you think about it like that. Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to go in every single day while you can see down the street somebody's doing something that's in your opinion, way simpler. And let's be honest, it probably is. I'm not going to say like doing content creation is like the easiest thing in the world, but it's probably a little easier than getting up at like 7 a.m. every single day, going to a job you don't like, right? Like I would think your life is probably a little better than some other people's lives. Along with this, I think a lot of Gen Z workers are feeling a sense of, their education not being worth it. The ROI, a return on investment on education, has gone down tremendously, right? College degrees don't mean anything what they used to mean, right? When I was in school, when my parents were in school, and when like my kids in school, the college degree is the same on paper, right? It's the same degree, same certificate, whatever degree you're getting, but it doesn't mean nearly the same. And especially nowadays where, AI like ChatGPT, YouTube, LinkedIn Learning, TED Talks, like you can learn so much for literally free, right? Like you can learn how to code for free. You don't even need, you don't even need school to a degree, right? You don't need to learn, or if you're trying to learn like French or something, you don't even need school. You don't need an instructor. Like it obviously, like it's going to be more helpful. But a lot of the skills right now, you need like a specific degree, like for instance, like grad school. Those are much more meaningful and probably more specific niche, like things that you actually do need to go to school for. But like an undergrad degree, I don't know, man. I don't think it's really worth it. And every single year that goes on, every single year that AI gets better, that the internet is more advanced and technology advances, like you really don't need it that badly. It's not the same as when I was in school, when my parents were in school, right? And 5-10 years, like it could mean it probably will mean way, way less. But the funniest thing is the cost. The cost is not going down, right? The cost, if anything, is probably going up, with inflation and, how expensive like teachers are and stuff like that. Like, yeah, professors, all that stuff, it's probably going up. You're probably paying way more in like 5 to 10 years than what I paid. And my kids probably gonna have to pay way more than that too. And for what, right? The education you're getting, the things you're learning probably are not going to be that comparable, especially when you compare it to, having YouTube and things like that at your disposal. And I don't know, man, it doesn't make for the best feeling when, you're dropping like 6 digits on an education and most of what you're using is learned on the job anyway, right? I don't know. If you have a job, let me know in the comment section. Did your degree help you like at all? Like, I'll be honest with you guys, with my 9 to 5, it probably helped me like 10%. I think the degree, like having the degree on my resume, probably helped me a good amount, especially in my first couple of jobs. After that, man, it's just whatever you learned, whatever projects, and basically like resume building, which I do plan on making a video on. So stay tuned and subscribe for some job related videos, because I do want to cover those and just kind of be helpful in that aspect. One of my last points here for why Gen Z doesn't want to work is no purpose. A lot of the work is not meaningful, and a lot of Gen Z care about meaningfulness, right? It might seem like they just care about being on TikTok all day and, just watching people dance or, I don't know, just saying trendy words. But a lot of times Gen Z workers also have a lot of values, right? They care about the environment, sustainability. They care about certain like social, political terms and agreements. They care about social justice, right? There's a lot of, I guess, care in that department that, my parents didn't care about. I think a lot of people my parents' age didn't even know was a thing that they could care about or that they should care about. And a lot of Gen Z does care about that stuff. And a lot of the work, most of the time it's like crunching in numbers or helping a customer or being on the phone or something like that. Like being behind an Excel workbook all day or talking on the phone all day. Like it doesn't feel that meaningful. And like I said, a lot of people want to feel meaningful. A lot of people realize, hey, this is the only life I'm going to have. Like, I don't want to spend it just, sitting around making someone else rich. And again, that's why so many people try to break free from the 9 to 5. They quiet quit. They start their own side hustles. They do content, whatever, right? Like people are trying to break free because they want their life to have meaning. And, I'm no exception. That's why I'm doing YouTube. That's why I have other side projects in life because, a 9 to 5, like, yeah, it's going to pay the bills. It's probably going to be my main source of income. I say probably, but not definitely. Just because of like, I'm a very risk averse person. So, even if like YouTube blows up or whatever, and this video gets like 5 million views and pays me super well, like it could be gone tomorrow. Right. And I'm not going to I'm not going to bank on the fact that every single YouTube video I put out is going to get 10 million, 100 million views. And so I don't know, just the fact that YouTube could take away my channel whenever they want, I could get hacked, anything like that. I'm a safe person, and I don't want that. I don't want that risk. But anyway, that's another topic. And the last reason that I kind of figured out here for why Gen Z does not want to work is for toxic environments. Kind of going along the lines of like the burnout thing that I mentioned earlier. But if you're in one company and it's toxic, you are really, really shut down from wanting to work. I realize this. A lot of my friends, a lot of my younger friends, they get in these situations where it's like, oh man, like my boss sucks, my coworker sucks, or there's drama everywhere I look, and they're just out. Like I guess freedom to choose like whatever company you can job hop whenever you want. Basically, I know the market's a little cooked right now, but for the most part, you can get a job. It's a lot easier, even though it's cooked, than way back before when our parents were kind of like, oh, this is the only job I can get, and I'm going to keep it for a million years. That's kind of what our parents thought, right? And so, a lot of kids, or not kids, but a lot of Gen Z, millennials, like we want to break free from that mindset because we want freedom, and we know that there's better things out there. I think a lot of our parents and our parents' generation was very, I would say, risk averse, and probably within good reason too. Like based on the economy, based on how the way things were going, maybe like, I don't know, scared from the Great Depression, or maybe they were raised like immigrants or something like that. They probably were just realizing like, hey, like I got to grind. I got to work super hard to make it for my family. A lot of us Gen Z millennials, like we don't really have that problem. A lot of times, especially if you're watching this video, you're probably decently well off. You have a phone, you have an internet connection, you probably have food on the table. You don't have to worry about that much. And I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm sure there's some people like, on a laptop at McDonald's watching this and, trying to figure out like how to make it in life. I'm sure that there's people who struggle in this life and who, watch this video. But also at the same time, a lot of people, I just, their lives are easier / better than our parents. I'll just leave it at that. And with that, that's basically going to do it. I'm pretty much wrapping up the gameplay here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Got some Rust OG Modern Warfare 2 domination or hardpoint. And yeah, if you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And, if you're Gen Z, let me know some of the reasons. Do you disagree? Do you think that you really, really want to work or something? Like, just let me know that in the comment section. And appreciate you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.